Alex from Techo-Bloc. I'm not
me.
even going to try to pronounce your last name.
It's Cadieux, but it's fine. That's why it's Alex from Techo-Bloc.
Love it.
I started that like 20 years ago. We started driving into Ontario, meeting people. Like, yeah, Alex from Techo-Bloc. Just, how do you say from Techo-Bloc? That's what you said.
That's all that matters.
Exactly.
I love it. So let's take a step back, paint the picture for us. How did you get started and where you're from? Tell us the story growing up and how you got in. I understand you got in pretty early to the company,
Yeah.
Techo-Bloc.
Yeah.
Share how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in the industry. My dad was a sales rep when I was a kid. So as of the age of 8 years old, I was on job sites riding around with him in the summertime. I'm the oldest of 4 kids, probably the most annoying of the 4 kids too. So my mom would be like, take this one with you today. And so I'd get dressed up in a little suit because that's the way sales reps would dress way back then.
Yeah.
So I'd be in a little suit riding around with my dad, grabbing samples out of the truck, grabbing catalogs, bringing them out to the customers and kind of doing the little assistant deal.
Yeah.
And then when he started working at Techo-Bloc, I was maybe 12 years old. And he started opening up the United States. We're a Canadian company.
Yeah.
And we started expanding into the States. So he would drive down and he would leave for like a week or 2 or sometimes even 3 at a time to really cover like the entire Northeast.
Right.
Down to New Jersey was about as far as we would go at the time. So I'd be his co-pilot. I'd have the map out. There was no GPS then.
Yeah.
And or at least it was very expensive then. And I'd have the map. I'd tell him what exits to take, how to get to the store. And then we'd get there and do the whole song and dance again. And while he would sign the deal, he'd send me to the truck to get everything to set up all the merchandising and basically set up the display in the store. So I was doing that as a kid. And then I worked as an installer later on when I was like 16, 17, 18, 19. And when I was done with university, I was working at Home Depot at the time. I got offered 3 promotions the same day. I was offered basically 3 different career paths where it was all like, hey, you can make like 100 to 200 grand by the time you're 30. If you go on this path, or this path. And basically it was 3 different managers who were fighting over me.
Yeah.
And then my dad calls me at work, which he never, ever, ever did. It just so happens this day he does. And at this point, he's the director of sales. And I tell him the story, and he tells me, well, before you make a decision, we're about to open 2 positions at Techo-Bloc. You might want to check that out. In my head, I'm like, I don't know. Like, I didn't really see myself just doing that. It seems like the easy path.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily like it when it's easy. It's boring to me. And but I went and I interviewed. I had to interview with Charlie, the president. I couldn't interview with my dad, obviously. I think he took about a month and a half to think about it. And then finally he gave me a call and he said, if you want the job, it's yours. And I told him, well, if you want to give it to me, I won't let you down. And, 18 years and 2 months later, I'm still here.
And how old were you at that point when you had?
I was 21 then.
21.
Yeah.
And what was the first role like? I'm sure they didn't throw you to the top right away.
Well, no, they didn't throw me to the top, but they threw me to the wolves. I was a sales rep. So I had to drive out and meet contractors who had more experience building stuff than I had years on this planet. So that was fun. So I had to really figure out what my angle was going to be, because just knowing about the products wasn't going to be good enough, because I was in a market where a lot of contractors knew what Techo-Bloc was. We were born there, so we've been around. So the real challenge for me was figuring out how can I add value to the equation. So I was fortunate enough to meet Paver Pete really early in my career, like pretty much right at the beginning.
Yeah.
So I took the ICBI certification class, the NCMA certification class, and I'm naturally curious, so I like to ask a ton of questions. And I would just call Pete and ask him a ton of questions, and call my dad and ask him a ton of questions. And even when I meet contractors, I ask them a ton of questions, like, why are you doing it that way? Why wouldn't you do it this way? Have you ever thought of doing it that way? And just try to build up like what works and what doesn't work, so that when I can meet someone, I can provide value in telling them like, hey, this is how we can make some more money.
Right.
Did you ever think about this? I know 3 guys that are doing it this way, and they're doing it a bit faster, but they're charging the same price, so they're making a bit more profit. And I just continued going down that path for almost 20 years. I ended up developing the Toronto market, getting transferred out there eventually. And then I became the national sales director. I'm skipping a few steps. I became the national sales director in Canada, established coast-to-coast distribution across the country. And then they asked me to move into marketing. So I moved into marketing because that was a new challenge for me.
Yeah.
But basically, I was taking everything I knew about success in sales, and instead of doing it one-to-one, now I was doing it one-to-many and bringing as much value as I could to as many people as I could through the reach of our team and our brand and all the channels that we have. And so that's it. So between Hardscaper Showcase, the podcast that we started 3 years ago, the Hardscaper learning website that we created 3 years ago, and all the other events and all the other courses and all the other resources we put on the website, everything is designed to help contractors be a little more successful. Because we know we make good products.
Yeah.
We don't need to talk about that. That doesn't help you. It helps you if you want to learn how to use it, but beyond that, it's that I keep saying how great they are, it doesn't change anything in your life. So I need to do something to help you do better.
So has that been the biggest thing that's set you guys apart, marketing and sales-wise, is the value added to be like, hey, we're here to actually help you. We're not just selling our...
Oh, 100%. 100%. Like, it's... If you cannot help the contractor, you will not last in this business. That's my firm belief.
Yeah.
Whether you're a manufacturer, whether you're a dealer, whether you're an equipment vendor, whatever, it doesn't matter. If I can't help you be successful, I'm not bringing any value. Therefore, I'm replaceable.
Right.
There has to be a good reason for you to pick up the phone when you see my name on it, you know?
And has Techo had that idea and mentality from the very start, or was that something that you that was brought to the table when you really started to step up?
No, I think it was always there, and maybe wasn't as clearly defined, but Charlie, the founder of Techo-Bloc, he's a former contractor. So his story, real quick, like very, very quick, is he was a landscaper who was dissatisfied with the availability of products and dissatisfied with the service level, and said, you know what, I can sell this stuff. I can do a way better job.
Yeah.
So he started a dealership. And then he was dealing with certain manufacturers, and he really didn't like the quality of the products, the variety of the products. He found it boring. The availability wasn't good. So he said, if this can't be that hard,
Yeah.
I'll just do it myself. So then he started Techo-Bloc. And every product that was rolled out and every new thing, and like we came out with a lot of new things, like tumbled, dimpled texture, wavy side pavers that like now are out of style.
Yeah.
They didn't exist before Techo-Bloc. Split face, tumbled, interlocking wall systems didn't exist before Techo-Bloc. So it was really like, the market needs this.
Yeah.
People want this stuff. They're trying to do it with other things. It's really inefficient. It doesn't look good. I can fix that. So it really started a very product focused and helping contractors understand how the products can save them time, because like we thought about them in the form of like, how do they come together?
Right.
Not just how do they look good, how do they come together? How are they packaged? Does this make sense for a contractor? Like there was a time when we would come out with solid colors before solid colors were really popular.
Yeah.
But like we came out with them and we would sell them in half pallets, because most of the time you only need half a pallet. So it was like, and it wasn't even a question. It was like, well, guys will want half a pallet. Why would we force them to buy a full pallet? Let's just sell it as half pallets. It makes it trickier for us because it's more expensive for us. There's more pallets to go through, but it's what's better for the customer, so that's what we do.
Yeah.
So that's just some examples. And then over time, we start to build a really complete product line. What else can we do? Well, we can show them how to mix them together. Well, we can show them how to build things better. Well, we can show them how to build different things that they're scared to do, because like, let's say an outdoor kitchen, if you've never built one, it's a heck of a head scratcher, and it's a great place to lose your shirt if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, let's figure it out for them. Let's share it with them so that they feel confident doing it.
And we talked about your presentation the other day on and what we're just saying, designing and making your life easier, starting from the design process and utilizing where the products are at. They're so advanced right now. You shouldn't have to take the saw out or limit taking your saw out as much as possible, whether it's kitchens or patios or limiting cuts and man hours at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, for me, especially right now, the market is so competitive today.
Yeah.
That if you want to be successful and you want to preserve the margins that I think we've all been exposed to over the last 3 years, we're like, oh, we can make money. We're allowed to charge prices that are fair, that allow me to pay myself, pay my company, pay my people fair wages. If you want to continue down that path, but the market's getting compressed, well, then you need to get smarter than you were yesterday. So one of the biggest things is figuring out where are the inefficiencies, and cutting is typically a big inefficiency because we design and we order materials and we do all that takeoff stuff a little too quick, and it forces us to spend more time in the field with the build. And what I mean by that is what you were alluding to. If I, instead of taking up my walkway or my patio from 4 feet, I take it to 4'6.5", well, that might eliminate the cuts that I need to do, or that might allow me to insert the decorative banding on the sides without having to cut them in.
Right.
If I look at things like what I was talking about in the presentation with the contractor support manual, I have designs for kitchen islands in there that I know they have 4 cuts. There are 2 cuts in the base and 2 cuts at the top for the vents. That's it. It's an 8-foot wide island by 3.5 feet, 2.5 feet deep.
Right.
That's the size of an island that you want. The other cuts you'd have to make would be if you're sticking doors or if you're sticking drawers or if you're, depending on what appliance you have, but those you always have to do.
Yeah.
It's all the other ones that you don't always have to do. That's where I think the opportunity lies to just shave a bit of time off. And on top of that, the other major challenge that we have is finding skilled labor, especially skilled, experienced labor. So, I like to think I'm really good on a saw. I'm meticulous, I'm patient, and I'm not patient in life, but that, I really want to do a good job. That is my craftsmanship as I'm cutting, and I get it. We get really proud about the cuts that we make, but every hour you're spending doing that, you could have put down 100 more square feet.
Right.
So it's having the discipline to make the right decisions in the field, and that starts in the office.
Well, not only having the discipline, but the actual knowing and opening your eyes to it. I'm sure lots of guys look right over that. Now, I want to ask you, what's one of the most, we talked about drainage, which is huge, and I'm sure this is where your answer will go, but what's the biggest, a lot of our jobs, we're correcting shitty work.
Yeah.
And what's one of the biggest failing points you see when there's things being installed poorly? What's one thing that sticks out like a sore thumb?
The thing that sticks out the most is the pitch. We're not setting the correct pitch for the pavement.
Right.
And I'm even guilty of this at my own house. I thought I could get away with a 1%.
Yeah.
Because it was, it's a small area. I don't want to have a big pitch. I'm putting a bunch of furniture on it, but 1% isn't enough, especially when you're working with the large format slabs that we want now. Everyone in the market wants 2-foot, 3-foot slabs. And if you want that, well, you need to make sure that you have enough pitch. The minimum, the industry minimum is 1.5.
Right.
What you should be shooting for is 2, though, because thing that I learned recently is how much water you need to sheet off of pavement. In that presentation that we keep referring to, I gave the example of 1,000 square foot pool deck. 1,000 square feet of impervious surface with a major rain event like a 25-year storm can generate upwards of 57 gallons of water per minute that I need to send somewhere. So if you think you could just send it off into the grass and you can run it along 20 feet or 30 feet, well, you might be setting yourself up for failure. And it doesn't show right away. But what does show is the slight imperfections that you end up getting while the water sits there longer. The sand joints never dry out. So now your sand starts failing. My sand is failing. Customer calls me, they're not happy. What do I have to do? I have to come back, check the sand, and oftentimes it turns into calling the sand manufacturer and saying your sand is shit. And too often we don't have the right drainage for the pitch.
Right.
Too often there's not the correct basement or bedding material also, so that traps water. And another thing to really keep in mind is the joints of a lot of products are getting so tight that moisture has a greater tendency of getting trapped in there. It's kind of ironic. You would think, well, it's smaller, so less water gets in, but it's smaller, so it breathes less too.
Right.
So I've seen a lot of that too. So having the right pitch and sheeting the water off as quickly as possible, it needs to be a priority now more than ever, which is kind of counterintuitive, because before, when it was all small pavers, like really aggressive textures, like I really got to pitch this because the water it takes a long time to get out. But really, it's just you always need to pitch it. It doesn't matter what the texture, it doesn't matter what the size is. You got to get the water off as fast as possible, and you need to make sure that you're controlling it. So the second thing is actual drains they should be on almost every job, and they're on almost no job.
Yes.
Whether it's a channel drain, a slot drain, a catch basin.
When you showed you were talking about the NDS calculator that they have on their website, and that I found pretty neat. You were mentioning, like, that's the I guess the biggest thing, no drains and your percent of grade, right?
Yeah, well, the other thing that's really happening with the no drains is there are joining compounds out there right now, right? Like products like Nitro from Alliance, or others like that, and they're kind of marketed and positioned as permeable products, and technically they're not. Like, in one sense, yes, water flows through them, and you see it, and the demonstrations are great, and the water does flow through it.
Right.
The challenge is they will not be permeable forever, because those are all very small openings, and those small openings can clog and will clog over time, unless you have a maintenance schedule. And yes, there's data to show that if I take a power washer to the surface, I can clear out a lot of the gunk that's filling up the top little bit.
Yeah.
And again, that's assuming that the customer is doing that stuff. And also, the pores in that material, it's not like straight shots down, right? It's all random.
Yeah.
So, like, as that gets gunked up, I could clear off the top, but if I've neglected that for a long time, it's going to get in there, and I can't get the rest out. So it will not stay permeable. And at minimum, the permeability rate that it currently has, it will never stay there. It'll continuously decline. So knowing those things, I see it way too often now. Contractors are like doing what they think it makes sense. They're like, well, for this area, we'll make it level, and we'll just put nitro in the joints.
Right.
And the water will flow through. And it does today.
But not 2 years from now.
10 years from now, probably won't.
Yeah.
Or it'll do it a lot slower. What's that mean? Well, that means puddles. That means stains on the pavement after. That means probably efflorescence. That probably means mold. That probably means, depending on what kind of base you put it on, some kind of failure or settlement of the pavement. That also means, like in the springtime, when you get the flash, the snow melt and then the flash freeze overnight, that means it's a skating rink. These are all things that, like, when you built it, look at that, you're hosing it, look at this, Mrs. Smith. Sure, but we don't build things just for today. We're building things that should last 25, 35, 45, 50 years. That's what we should be delivering as value to our customers.
Right.
Not 5, 10 max. So with that in mind, the conversation of having the proper pitch, having the right drain structures in place is still relevant. Nitro and other products like it are a fantastic product. I don't get polymeric haze. I'm not affected by the weather. I can install it if it's raining, if it's dry, if it's hot, if it's cold, it's fine. That's a big advantage. Not having to worry about the pavers being perfectly bone dry, right? Like it rained yesterday, I still can't put the sand in. It could be raining right now, I can put that stuff in. So even though the material cost is significantly higher than polymeric sand, the time savings, it makes it a no-brainer. Just it is not a substitute for a drain.
So what would be the solution properly, like running 2% but doing nitro to get the time savings? Or like what's a solution in your head?
Well, I think it's the biggest thing is understanding the materials available to you and understanding how the systems are designed to work. It's the combination of those two things that makes you a competent hardscape installer. What I mean by that, the best example I can give you is the talk of the width of the walkway, right? Like
right.
If I understand the products I can work with, well, then I can decide on the size. makes sense. If I understand the joining materials that I have available to me, the paving options that I'm using, the pitch that I can actually achieve with the project, to what drainage structure I'm going to be sending it, well, then I can make the right decision. Because, for example, a nitro or other joining compound, well, I can't get that into some of the joints of some of the products that exist. The joints are too tight.
Right.
So I still have to use polymeric sand. Until those resin-based epoxy compounds change, I still have to use polymeric sand. So depending on what product we decide to go with, well, that dictates which way I can go with my
and how you design the job.
Yeah. Regardless of which one of those I use, I still need to set the appropriate pitch. I still need that 2% to pitch the water away, and I still need a structure to catch the water. That structure could be visible, it could be in the pavement, or it could be like the example I was showing on screen where there were channel drains on either end of the pool, because those areas were larger and they extended beyond. So we have the pool, I have the pool deck, and then I have another patio here. So I put a drain right in between, because this can pitch this way, this can pitch this way, that's going to take the water out.
Right.
On these two sides, we have planter areas. So these planting areas, they have a good layer of topsoil for the planting. Underneath that, there's a layer of fabric, and underneath that, there's a good layer of clean stone.
Yeah.
So any excess water that isn't absorbed by the root matter of the plants can soak down through the fabric, through the stone, and there's a pipe there. So anything that's too much hits the pipe takes it out to the same place that these drains are going.
Right. And so industry standards, that's like clearly it's a thing you guys focus on, and making sure your product's installed correctly and right. And it was brought up, whether it's your conversation or not, when you're presenting, and whether it's electricians or plumbers or whatnot, there's apprentice programs and certifications they get. And Mark alluded to this at the end of his chat last night. Landscapers, there's no certificate or no programs that you're either good or you're not, like who knows? What are your issues with that, number one? Number two, do you think it'll ever get to that point where there's you can be a certified landscaper or apprentice programs, that sort of thing?
I feel like I should ask you that question, because on my side, as a manufacturer, selfishly, I want as few barriers to entry as possible to the industry. I don't want to force people to have to take certain courses to be able to get in.
Right.
Again, purely selfishly, commercial bias. I also believe that there's so much education out there that it's not necessarily a requirement. It's like saying, I'll only hire you for a job if you have a bachelor's degree.
Right.
Do you need that to do the job? I don't think so. I didn't finish university. I made it to the position I did by learning and applying and asking lots of questions and doing a ton of reading and attending conferences and taking courses and continuing to and asking.
But not everyone does that due diligence and thinks they're the Superman of I can do everything and I don't need to spend their time and this and that. And then they're installing your amazing product in a shitty manner.
Right. But that's where I think that the entire industry needs to do a better job of informing the client of what good looks like. Instead of fighting on stupid things like price, we need to help the customer understand what good looks like and what the consequences of not choosing good look like.
Right.
And we don't do a good enough job of that. For every shitty contractor who's out there who's able to sell a job, there's a homeowner who's willing to pay for it, and they don't know that in a year or 2 or 3 they're going to have to redo it.
Right.
Or they don't think it'll happen to them because the contractor convinces them otherwise. But convinces them based on what?
Because they're the professional.
Right. So if you're coming in as the real professional who has the education, who has taken the courses, who has tried things, made mistakes, learned from them, why is that not part of the discussion with the client? Why is that not part of the presentation that you have on your website? Why is that not part of the branding that you put out on the internet, like on social media, explaining, like, oh, we're repairing this job today. These are the things that we saw go wrong. That's why we always build this way.
Right.
You know, I don't think that you need to have a certification program or that you need to have a special license to be able to deliver value in our industry. I understand the concept of it, but I also know plenty of shit electricians that have their cards. They have everything, right? Like, because I can pass a test doesn't mean I'm good at my job. So I think that we have to be careful with that, because it's not just well, that'll fix it, you know? Apprenticeship programs, I like that idea though, because making it easier for young people to enter our industry and giving them guidelines and giving them kind of the resources they need to find success and get paired up
Like
with
all
the right
in one
company.
spot.
Yeah, like that's good.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the only path in, and I think that's the thing. I think part of solving the challenge is not, well, let's create one road in. No, we need all roads to be able to get in, but what we need to do is do a better job of defining what good is, what success in our industry looks like, so that more people can aspire to that. Because even a shitty contractor, I refuse to believe that they are intentionally shitty. I'm sure there are some, but most of them, they genuinely think they're doing a good job.
Yeah.
They don't know better. And it's a little bit still like shame on them, because like all the information is there. It's all free. Like, just ask, look, Google, do something. But I get it. Like, you look at the struggle of running a business and you're just trying to keep your head above water all the time. When are you going to look at that stuff? You know, how many people do I meet that I invite to come out to our hardscaper showcase events, and they're like, I don't have time. I'm like, how do you not have time to learn how to manage your time better? How do you not have time to make more money down the road? How do you not have time to understand what can take your business from this, where I can't breathe, to like, okay, at least I can breathe and I can figure out what the next move is? How do you not have 3 hours for that?
And your hardscaper course, can you explain how that was started and how, like, really the idea behind that? Because that's contributing to the solution of this issue.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was exactly that, right? It's a result of the pandemic, pure and simple. We couldn't do our shows anymore, and we saw that the demand in the industry was so ridiculous, and nobody could find anyone to help them. Everyone was like, I need some guys. I don't care. It's like, they just need a pulse, and I can teach them.
Yeah.
So we're like, all right, well, we'll make something that can help you teach them. So we made the courses. I've taught the ICPI and NCMA courses for years, and found them to be challenging to teach because of the resources that you're provided with. Like, the videos are from 19-something, and all the drawings are black and white, and there's no animations of how things work. And like, I don't know, I grew up watching like Bill Nye the Science Guy. So like, for me, it's like he's explaining something and then it cuts to like an animation. Like, right, when the load is applied here, it distributes out this way. Yeah. And even when I learned from Paver Pete, like, he would just draw on these Captain flip charts. Like, just the giant Post-its.
Yeah.
After class, the wall is just wallpapered with drawings. And he would just explain how things actually work. Like, in the textbook, you see this drawing. Yeah, okay, all right. Okay, now look at me. What that means is this. So what we did was we worked together, and we basically made video courses where we're explaining it that way. And instead of being a 2-day course, where it's like, it's like 2.5 hours of little 5 to 10 minute videos. Yeah. Where it's like, okay, let me explain to you how bass works. The role of bass is this, this, this. These are the options that you have for bass. Let me show you what they look like. This is ASTM C2940. It's dense graded material. It's made up of these different size particles. It's good for these applications, not so good for this. This is open graded stone. It's like ASTM 57 stone. This you can use this way and this way. Let's take a look at the first one. And then animation, you got to spread it out. You got to compact it. You got to make sure it's nice and level before you compact, or smooth before you compact.
Just dummy proof every single little step.
Well, yeah, we made it like, listen, it's not to the point where like you're a homeowner and you want to do your backyard, watch this. You could, but it's like, it's at a level where like, okay, you are trying to be a professional in the industry, so we're going to talk to you that way.
Right.
So we don't dumb it down all the way. We make it simple but professional and explain why everything. Why do you need to compact in these lifts? Why do you need to choose this material? Why does the fabric need to go in? So that the person who's watching and learning this information understands when they get on the job site and the foreman says, okay, we're going to put the fabric down, they understand the importance of it. They understand, okay, I can't have wrinkles in it. Oh, okay, I do need to spike it down. Oh, I need to have the overlap because I understand this is preventing my base material from mixing with my soil, because if it mixes, the pavement is going to fail. And I want to do a good job.
And I feel that's with everything, like the foreman and the guys understand why they do it. Not just this is the list boss gave me. Mm-hmm. It's like the same thing with you and me. I'm not going to do something if I don't understand the purpose of it.
Right.
And I find that when I'm speaking with my guys, if they think it's a stupid idea or don't understand it, they're not going to do it. So having those, like I've checked them out, and whether it's yours or I've done like many others and brought my crews as well, so they can see and teach others within the company. So I think it's super important why we're doing it, not just how.
Yeah, I think we forget that too. I think even in my everyday job, like sometimes it feels like I'm taking way too long to say, like, just to assign a task.
Yeah.
But if you've never done it before, or it's contributing to a project that you've never been involved with before, I feel it's important that you understand, like, okay, I need you to do this. By doing this, what you're really doing is you're contributing this piece to the puzzle. This is the puzzle. The puzzle is important because this is how it contributes to the whole company.
Right.
So I really need you to do a good job with this one piece. You got it? And then they do a good job with it and they feel like they're contributing.
To part of the bigger picture.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing too. It's not just the why, but like make them feel that they're contributing because they are. Like make them understand, like your role, what you're doing here, it is contributing to this for the company. And that's why I think, a lot of the stuff that was covered in the conference this week, in terms of like having the team meetings and goal setting and goal sharing and having those check-ins, I think those are things that help get people along. And, I see it with my own team in the marketing department, where like I see the progression of the people in their careers, and like I have people that have been with us for like 2 or 3 or 4 years, and they totally get everything we need to do, and they're able to like challenge ideas and say, like, I know you want to do it that way, but what if we did it this way? Wouldn't that get us to the result better?
Yeah.
It's like, oh shit, you're right.
Like there was one yesterday, I don't know if you saw it, but they built this tower on a ski hill the wrong way.
Oh, no, I didn't see that one.
So they built it the wrong way, and the point behind that was that everyone was scared of speaking out, because the culture around that was, this is how we do it, and the boss
get lit up if you.
Yeah. So they built this tower facing like swamps and forests, opposed to the ski hill and lake view, and they got up to like the 6th story, and they just stopped. But you're right, like having guys understand the importance of what the bigger picture is, and then they contribute and speak up, and it's not just one boss brain, because I don't know anything, and I'm not in the field every day. Like they probably know way more than I do. I want your ideas.
But it's a lot of work to do that. Like you cannot underestimate what that is. And that's why I think it doesn't get done, is because you have so much other stuff that you're like, okay, I need you to move this chair from here to there. Okay, I'm going to go do this now. That's like,
most times
so you move the chair and it's the same thing, right? You slide the chair and it's facing into the wall. Like that doesn't help anything, right? So it's, you gotta really think like, and I think this is the biggest realization I've had over the last maybe year or two, and I've probably heard it through different conversations and stuff, but like you need to make the decisions today that are going to put you in the best position 5 years from now. So if taking the extra 5 minutes to explain something, or 10 minutes to explain something to someone today, means that 5 years from now, that person should be able to do major parts of your job or your whole job,
right?
And that's what you want, that's what you envision, then it's the right decision to do today. just like when you're marketing your company and you're trying to push your brand out there, like don't push out the brand that you are today, push out the brand that you envision to be in 5 years, because it's such a slow process that you really, it's like writing your goals down. It's just now you're and people call it like manifesting now, but like really it's just you're taking all the necessary steps to get to where you want to be. And if you really stop and break it down and think like, to be there, what are all the things I have to do? And this is work too. You need the headspace, you need the quiet time, you need like, a morning with a coffee and just like, all right, I want to be there, and branch it all out. You really start to understand like, hey, this is what I need to focus on. This is what's important.
And break it down into steps.
Yeah.
So what is I'm curious, talking about like your team, what does your day-to-day look like running and managing your team? It seems like you're everywhere all the time.
Well, yeah, we kind of are. My year kind of works in seasons, like our industry.
Yeah.
Probably a little different from a lot of other people in marketing because I started in sales. I started installing, then I started in sales. So like most of my experience in the industry is in the field. It's not in an office.
Right.
So I don't like being in an office. So I like to get out. I like to meet customers, and I think it's incredibly important for any business leader in any department. Really, you need to meet your customers. You need to understand what they're dealing with, what their challenges are, what the competition's doing, what other people might be doing. That if you don't get out, you don't know. So that's why I think like networking events like this too are really good for us, but also for guys like you, because you get to talk with other people, you get to see. Even better yet would be to visit other people's job sites and see how they're running them.
Right.
But to answer your question, basically, like I said, it works in seasons. So like the first quarter of the year is very event heavy. It's event and marketing campaign launch focus for us. So new products come out, all the new literature comes out, updates to the website come out, and all of our events come out. My main focus at that time is the events. When we get to Q2, the events are done. Now it's analysis, understand, okay, what's going on? What do our sales numbers look like? What's going on with, what was the performance of all our campaigns, all our launches? And how do we apply all that to start building for 2025? What do we need to do? Then when we get to Q3, that's when my team will be involved in two things. We're kind of split off into building out the shows, so all the routes, all the logistics, everything about getting these shows put together, all the venues, all the contracts, all that stuff. And another part of the team is focused on the content. So okay, we're on the job sites. We've already identified who are the contractors we're going to be building jobs with this year. We're now traveling out to different cities, and we're filming with Pay Repeat, with members of our sales team, and with all of our partners. We get all that lined up in previous quarter so that we're ready to rock. So we get on the job sites, we film everything, and then we turn that into the presentation and into the demos and into the displays that we need at our shows. And then in Q4, we button it all up, and we get it ready, and we launch the campaigns to start the shows. So
it launches the end of the year?
Yeah, at the end of the year, we announce the shows. Yeah. Like, hey, shows are coming, because they start right away in the new year. So that's one part of what I do. Another part of what I do is with regards to all the customer programs that we have. So we have our Techo Pro program, which is certification, it's visibility for contractors, it's a bunch of benefits and rewards for contractors too. So we have that program, so we're monitoring the progress of people coming into that program. How are they doing? Are we growing the program? Are people taking advantage of the benefits, or the things we should be changing? We have the Pay Now, Pay Later program as well, which is our financing program for contractors, so they can finance homeowner projects. They can also, through this program now, they can finance their daily operations, and they can finance equipment purchases. So lots of great options through Regions Interbank, which is our financing partner. And then we also have our dealer co-op program. So our dealers have a marketing budget basically allocated from us. It's a percentage of what they buy from us, and we give that back to them in the form of a credit when they advertise. So the more you advertise, the more I'll support you. So basically, you can double your money with me as a dealer.
Right.
You want to spend $20,000. If you've purchased enough, well, I'll pay another $20,000 in the form of a credit. So you invest $40,000 in marketing, it only costs you $20,000. It's a great deal.
And is that something that sets you guys apart, or like how do the other
I don't think
competitors do it? Is it similar?
I think it's a pretty standard thing now. It wasn't, but like all good things, they get copied. But I think one of the things that we have is we have great marketing to support the dealers. Like we have great photography, we have great pieces that I can take, slap my logo on, and push it out. So that's one of the ways that we add value to the dealers, which is important too. Like you said at the beginning, like if we're not adding value, we're kind of useless.
So
we have that. And then I also work hand in hand with our sales directors for our sales strategies and development of sales tools and sales programs, and analyzing the numbers and making sure that we can figure out how we can keep growing the company.
And so that bridges the gap between the marketing team and sales?
Yeah. Basically, the fact that I did it, I get it. Not that the rest of the marketing team doesn't get it, but I know I know what the conversation is going to sound like. So like if we want to roll something out, let's say it's a new sales tool, like I'm able to like simulate like, okay, here's what's going to happen in real life. The rep is going to get it. They're going to meet the customer. I understand what's going on in the CRM, like how it's going to get logged. So like we can determine ahead of time really what the parameters are to make it as smooth and simple for our sales team, because they have a lot to do. They have to focus on supporting you guys. They shouldn't have to focus on supporting all the initiatives that we want to roll out. So it should be as simple as possible. So that's part of what that bridge is about. Like, okay, I get it. Let me talk with the sales directors. Let me just get a clear eye on like, okay, what's the workload for them? What is their main focus is right now? All right, guys, here's how we can roll this thing out.
And I'm sure it changes quite frequently with you guys analyzing the numbers. Number one, that, but also like your guys' efforts, the different events. Like I'm sure you analyze what works and what doesn't, and changes it for the next year. Correct?
Yeah, it's we're not often making big changes, but we're always tweaking stuff.
Right.
Always. We're very we try to be as data driven as possible. There's some things that we can see, there's some things that we can't, so we have to get a feel. So that's one of the really nice things of having so many people. Pretty much every director position at Techo-Bloc started at the entry level in their department and worked their way up. I might be the only exception because I worked my way up in sales and then moved over.
Right.
But everyone started at the bottom and worked their way up. So we understand how the business works and how our industry works and how our customers work. Like we get it. And that's what I think helps us to constantly be tweaking things, because even if I don't have the data, I can go sit down with a guy like you, ask a couple questions like, all right, I know what we have to do.
Right.
We got to do this.
So you mentioned that you get bored easily, and I'm the same way, and you're probably always wanting a challenge and the next thing and something better, exciting.
It's good and it's bad. It's
awesome, but what comes with that is hard lessons, hard knocks, and my question is, what has been one that stood out to you that you're thankful for, that you've really learned from, and that others could learn from?
It's hard, especially when you work your way up in a team, which I think is pretty parallel to just starting your own company. Like you build it up.
Yeah.
The delegation of tasks is incredibly hard to do when you've done it and you do it really well, or at least you think you do it really well. And I think the biggest lesson is when you find the right people, and that's why it's so important to really understand what is it that you need.
Right.
Being attractive, like there's so many things that go into this. This is gonna, like, I thought it would be a short answer, but it's gonna be a long one. But really, it's around delegation. But one of the biggest lessons was learning to let go of major pieces of major projects that I'm responsible for and delegating them to the right people. And right now I'm able to do that. And it not only did it open my eyes to, hey, I'm not the only one that can do this, but B, they can do it better than I can, because
that's all they do.
That's all they do. I just went through a tenth of really what my year looks like, but I have to touch so many different parts of the business, and that's just in one department. I have to touch all these different things, and then I have to figure out how to branch that out and delegate it down. But once you start to delegate it down and you start to realize, like, hey, not only can they do it better, but they're doing it differently, and the different is a lot better. It's more organized, it's smoother, it looks better. So like, it's all these great things, but it's because I have the right people.
But also because you let go to give them the opportunity to find those better ways. Because sometimes it's a balance of letting go too much and they fall on their face a few times and learn, or fall on their face and stay there.
Yeah, but I think the reality with some of the letting go was I had to let go. So last year I had I don't know if it was officially diagnosed as a burnout, but I had, I think, what you would call a burnout, because I was just trying to do everything, and I wasn't letting go of enough, and I was so focused on delivering everything because I'm accountable for all these things. And I have a young team, so I was really trying to just make sure that, like, they weren't gonna fall. You know, I was like holding up a toddler, like eventually I have to let them go. And it got to a point where I didn't have a choice. I was forced to just let them go, and they crushed it. And then I was like, I'm so stupid. Like, it was there the whole time. And I was just like not letting myself see it because of fear of failure, which is a stupid thing. Like, I've been doing this a long time. I know what we're doing. We have a good brand. We have a great team that supports us. We have a great following with contractors. Like, how could it fail? Could it be like the ultimate best thing ever? Maybe, maybe not, but it's not going to fail.
Or if it does, you learn from it and you tweak it.
Yeah, but like there's different levels of failure too. Like, it's not going to be a complete disaster. No one's going to show up to our shows. We're going to be blowing money left, right, and center. People are going to quit. People are going to have to get fired. Like, it's no. Like, we all know what we're doing. It'll be decent at worst.
Right.
You know, we aim for excellent. Decent will be the worst case scenario. So I think that was the big lesson, and this because it was forced. But since then, now I've been able to really let go, and what I'm seeing is not only is it helping me be able to, like, be here, for example, but it's also helping me to have different thoughts, because I'm not thinking of what's the next thing, what's the next thing, what's the next thing, what's the next thing, what's the next thing. I'm thinking about what's the next big thing. Where are we going now?
Like a chairman point of view, opposed to spinning your wheels.
Yeah, like it's. I went from being in the machine room to, like, up to the. I don't know anything about a boat, but like, I'm, you know, instead of like I don't know. I don't have a good analogy, but like I'm at the steering wheel now instead of figuring out, like, just controlling the gas. You know, like, I can see where we're going. I see what needs to be done next, and I can have ideas. I have the space and the time to think about what the next thing can be to grow our business and help our customers and help my other teammates across the company, instead of just worrying about just get this shit done and out the door. So I think that's a big thing. And the other thing is, not only are they doing it, like I said, they're doing it better than I could, and they're bringing new ideas and new perspectives, and like, things are going better than they were before. So, but you have to have the right people, and to have the right people, you have to have, I really believe this, you have to have the right recruiting strategy, but more important than that is you have to have a good brand. And that's why
somewhere where people want to work.
They want to work there. Like, that's I think the big difference what makes it possible is like, today I can open up a job posting and I'll get 40, 50 applicants in the first week.
Yep.
10 years ago, that wasn't the case. 10 years ago, I'd open up a position, I'd have maybe 3 in like 2 weeks.
Right.
So it's like, and I forget where I heard this. Oh no, I think I heard it yesterday. It was like, you're going to make a bad hire if you have a bad talent pool to choose from. You know?
Yeah.
If there's no one good applying, you're going to make a bad hire. It doesn't matter how awesome your interview process is, you're going to hire the wrong person. And I think that's the big difference is, you know, we've done a lot of work on the branding of the company, but also the employer branding. You know,
So how do you differentiate the two?
Well, employer branding basically means you're showing the inside of the company. You're showing like what the work conditions are. You're showing what the work opportunities are. You're telling success stories of people in the company.
So mixing that in with your socials?
Yeah, I mean, like if you look at our LinkedIn, I mean, that's where most of the people we're trying to hire are. If you look at our LinkedIn, like we'll have posts on like, you know, the annual recap of like the annual HR recap. And it'll be like how many promotions we had, how many new hires we had, what percentage of our management team is millennials, what percentage of our team is women, and just show like, and the change year over year. And it's like, wow, like it looks like a pretty good company. Like even when I saw it, like, oh fuck, we're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
So when you put that stuff out there, you become more attractive to a potential employee. And when you put that out there along with what you do, they're like, oh, that's cool shit. Like, I get it. That looks cool. Company looks cool. All right. Oh, they have a job. I know how to do that job. I'll apply.
Yeah.
So it's really like you really have to have this 360 view of your business, because you can't do that without the revenue. And you need sales for the revenue. And you need to sell at a price that more than recovers your overhead so that you can invest in marketing and branding. Yeah. So you need to know your numbers very well. You know, like you really have to...
All goes full circle.
You have to look at the whole business, and that's why you need to take the opportunities to really take a step back and try to map it out. And it won't be perfect, but try to map it out. And then once you have a plan, work the plan. The worst thing you can do is make a plan and then try to make it perfect. That's the worst thing you can do.
And what your point is just get started.
Get started.
With
get going.
a plan and refine it as you go.
Understand what are the things that are most important to you. Figure out how you can measure those things, and you can maintain visibility on those things, and then get to work. Because if you have it, and I like the analogy of driving a car. If I'm driving the car, I don't have a dashboard, I don't have a GPS. It's going to be really hard to get there. Right? And get there the way that I want.
Yeah.
But if I have a GPS, I have a dashboard showing me my fuel, showing me my speed, showing me my RPMs, showing me my oil pressure. All right. I can get there, and I will get there on my terms in the time that I want, and this car will still be in one piece. So that's the stuff that you need to look at, right?
The last thing I do want to ask is what's next? You have the personality, you're always the next thing, and whether it's the company, yourself, like what's the 5-year plan, as you mentioned the importance of that earlier on.
I can't divulge too much because it's a very competitive space, but what I can say is our ambitions are to be able to have manufacturing coast to coast across North America. We're still progressing on that. That's not in 5 years. There's plenty of work ahead of us to be able to do that. But what that really means is we're going to continue focusing on doing what's right for our partners, specifically the contractors and the dealers, because we need the dealers to get the product to the contractors, but really everything that we can do to support the contractors, because like I said in my talk 2 days ago, the industry is going to have another surge and we need to be ready for it. So that means We need to really get focused on getting more educational content out there. We need to make the industry as attractive as possible so that more people come into it, so that you can keep building your team. I think that's part of our responsibility too. Like, you building your brand and trying to attract people in the industry, that 100% is your job, but it's also my job, because I don't have anyone to sell blocks to if you don't have anyone putting them in the ground. So I think that's going to continue to be a major focus, and we're going to try some new things in terms of events and educational opportunities. I think it's important to keep pushing the envelope and trying new things. And beyond that, I think it's really just getting into new markets and continuing to bring more value across North America. Like, right now, we're pretty much Canada, Northeast United States, Midwestern United States, and the Southeast United States, coming down into Georgia. We're just starting to come down.
Yeah.
But, like, we're sitting in Florida here today, and everybody was like, when can we get your product? Can we get your product?
Yeah.
People from Alabama, we want your product. I had someone stalk me on LinkedIn and then track me down here from Texas who wants to get the product. And these are all, like, we're coming.
Yeah.
So that's really the focus is from a company standpoint, is getting to those markets as quickly as possible, because the market wants us and we have great products and we're here to help. On the more personal side, it's building out my team so that I have the people in place, so that as the company grows, well, they have room to grow too. So that means I need to focus on how can we grow the company as quickly and sustainably as possible, to give everyone on my team the opportunities that I had coming up, and not have them be stuck at, like, okay, well, I made it to manager, and now the only way I can move up is I got to knock you off.
Right.
I want you to knock me off, but I need a place to go too. So we just got to keep building the business.
And you think a huge part of that is the KPIs, as you mentioned?
100%. 100%, because that's how we know we're going in the right direction.
And a huge thing this week, showing what success looks like.
Yeah.
The biggest thing.
Well, that's why, like, you need to make the vision. Then the mission is how you achieve the vision. Then that breaks down into goals. And then the goals get broken down into specific objectives. And those specific objectives need to get broken down to each individual team member. And every one of those needs metrics to measure them. So it's like this big pyramid of very specific information.
Yeah.
And then if you have that for every person, and I liked what I saw on the screen for one of the presentations, it was like the org chart with their objectives. So
like under each title.
Yeah, like if I have that, if I'm sitting in my office and I have a screen on the side that has that, and that's always there, well, okay, or print it out and stick it on the wall or something, but like every person on my team, they have 3 to 5 things that's what they have to deliver this year. It's always top of mind. So every time I talk to them, how are we doing on these 5 things? Let's take a look. Oh, this one's not doing too well. Why not? Let's drill into it. Let's look at the numbers. Let's look at what's the challenge.
But you know whether it's doing good or not.
Well, that's it.
I maybe had a good day.
But that's something that I have to continue working on too, because I like chasing the squirrels too. It's a lot of us are the same way. That's why we end up in this industry.
100%.
But like, you have to keep your eyes on the prize, and you got to have that vision there. It's got to be a visual that's always in your face, at least for me.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
I'm the same way.
forget.
Nuts.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Awesome, Alex. Well, listen, we'll wrap this up. I really appreciate your time, and you got busy rest of the day and lots of shit always on the go. So, anyways, it was great meeting you. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
It's good.